Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tracy and today I'm going to show you a video on 3 ways of masking using Sizzix Masking Film. This is a video for ScrappyShak, and in the video I'm going to show you a lot of fun techniques that you can do by using masking film. This little bear picture, silhouette type things, and just straight up masking so that you can stencil behind. So let's go ahead and get into the video. And while we're here, I just want to get you to stop by ScrappyShak.com for your shopping needs. Alright, so what I have here, this is Sizzix Masking Film. It's 8.5, well, it's bigger than 8.5 by 11. It's weird sized. But you get 10 sheets in the package. It is clear, transparent, it's also waterproof. So it's plasticky, which is really handy if you want to do wet techniques, because some of the masking techniques that people use utilize wet mediums, so this doesn't bother. So we're going to use that stencil is a handmade stencil that I made with my scan and cut because I didn't have a striped stencil. And then I'm going to use my Sizzix stencil tool throughout until I have to do some smaller stuff. And I've got here a piece of, I'm going to stamp my image first, and I'm just going to place it here on the Sizzix sticky mat that's on there, or the sticky paper, and I'm going to grab my professor stamp. He's pretty easy to cut out, so that's why I chose him. Plus that, I just really like this guy. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp the professor down using the Sizzix stamp and stencil tool. That's a mouthful. Hopefully I can spit it out. Oh my. Okay, so where is my ink? There it is. And I'm going to go ahead and just use Versafine Clear. Now you can get the stencil film and the stamp and stencil mat at ScrappyShak. So I'm going to get him good and saturated because I want a nice dark professor. And then stamp him down, and I may do it more than once so I can make sure it's good and black. Throughout this video I will be doing a lot of speeding up because there's certain things that just don't need you to sit there and watch me cut. And feel free to double time me too, because it is rather a long video because it is 3 different ways of using masking techniques. You can do a lot of really fun stuff if you try it. It's actually not that hard. I think the thing people hate most is the fussy cutting, but to be honest with you, you could probably throw that stuff in your scan and cut. Me, I'm all for getting out my scissors. There we go, nice and dark. I'm happy with them. I'm going to move him aside, and then I'm going to trim myself off a piece of this masking film. I'm going to wipe Professor off because I'm going to be using Stays-On because it dries fast. And so I don't want a bunch of smudging, and I don't feel like waiting for a long time for stuff to dry. So we'll get a piece of this out here, and then I'll trim off enough that I can stamp him. And let's just grab them and measure like that. I just kind of lay them on there, and I don't know, what I'm thinking sometimes, because if I lay him that way and I cut around him, he's going to be stamped down the other way. But no matter, it works. I get lucky. Alright, so then I'm going to put, yep, it's still going to work. I'm going to go ahead and just put Professor on there, and then just lay it in the old place. Pull him up, and use my Stays-On ink. And here we go. We'll go fast now. Doesn't have to stamp out perfect. You just mainly want your edges. Wiping him off with an alcohol wipe, and now I'm grabbing my stencil and grabbing Professor and putting him on, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut out the mask. So it's really easy to see on the white paper, and again, I use StazOn because this is plastic, and so you want it to, you know, not smudge. You don't want to lose your ink. It doesn't really matter after the fact, after you get it cut out. See, I'm wiping a lot of them off just so I don't get a bunch of black everywhere. And excuse my head while I lay that on there evenly. And now I'm going to place my stencil and just push it down onto the paper. And I will be using my pouncing tool, and I'm going to use Victorian Velvet Distress Oxide. I like how large this is because it's also going to hold my ink pad from slippy sliding around, because that is the Sizzix, what do you call this stuff? Sticky paper. I don't know. Hey, I'll link it down below. You guys know what a space cadet I am. So all I'm doing is just pouncing in. And the reason I'm using the pouncer is because those little stripes, you know, they're not very well supported, and I really don't want them wiggling around. I want a nice, clean, striped image. So just patting that in, and it works really well. I use those for my oxide. I have another brand that I use for my inks. So this thing, those are adapters that you can put on your own stencil, and to, you know, fit it onto that little jig. So I'm going to wipe off some of this oxide from Professor, mostly just so I don't get it everywhere. But I'm going to leave him on there. I'm going to leave the mask on there because I want to stamp one more thing, but I want it to end up behind him. So you mask what you want in front. Everything else will go behind. Sometimes I have trouble wrapping my brain around that, so I have to think about it a minute. I'm just going to stamp this little kind of sentiment newspaper ad thingy that comes along with the Professor stamp set. And then I'll go ahead and pull my paper. And then I'm just going to take my tweezers and pull off my mask. And there you see the stripes and the little advertisements right behind him. Then I just lay the mask right back on the masking paper and just wipe off any excess ink, and you can store it with the stamp. That's usually what I do. I tend to make a mask with a lot of my stamps right away. I'm going to go ahead and trim this with my decal trimmer here. And we'll make a quick card out of it because, yeah, that's what we do, right, mostly. I mean, you don't have to use masking for just cards. You can use it for, you know, painting or whatever. So I'm just going around it with the Victorian Velvet here, just to kind of bring in a little bit of color, and then I'll go ahead and do my vintage photo around that. And then I'm going to dab off my dabber, my little tool here, and then go ahead and just kind of add some grunge in here because that's what I like. And there we have it. All we need to do is attach that to a card base. You could put a sentiment on it and make a great Father's Day card because it's a guy. And I'm just using art glitter glue in a little glue container there. And there, that one's done. Next up, I'm going to show you another way to mask. So, what I have here is I have this set that I got from Sizzix with the little bear and the little fox and the little deer, moon and stuff. And then I have some kind of funky ovals there. And I'm just getting this out. I got lucky and Sizzix had this on sale. Because when it first came out, I wanted it, and I couldn't find it. And then they had it on sale. So I'm going to cut some masks here. I'm going to cut a couple of bushes. I'm going to cut the bear, and I'm going to cut the little fox. I'm not going to do the rocks, and I'm going to cut the moon. I'm not going to do the rocks or anything. I'm not going to go too crazy here. I'm just going to fit these all onto a scrap piece. And I like to tape them down because I tend to flip my stuff upside down in my Vagabond. So it's face up. And then I'm going to take and trim a piece down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm going to take one of the ovals and decide which one. And later on, I changed my mind later on and go with a smaller one. Just because this one was just ended up being too big. I needed a little bit smaller to really kind of fence in my images and still have a background to work with. Alright, so I've got this adorable little stamp set by Josh Griffiths. It's a stamp and die. And I've gone ahead and cut out all the little parts that I want to use for masks. And I'm also going to cut this paper down to 4.5 by 5 1/4. I mean 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'll get that straight. And I'm going to use one of these wonky little ovals here to cut a mask out. I'm going to get it centered, you know, pretty much just eyeball it and take that through my Vagabond. And once I've got that through, I've got a little trick for you because of the struggles I had with the first one that I cut. And because it was such a big piece and it was kind of floppy. So I'm just putting little tape on there to mark the edges so that I get it even. And what I want to do is I want to put that down on my paper, this outer portion. So I'm going to cut it in half so that I have two manageable pieces. And I'm just going to peel the backing off and lay the first piece on. And it's so much easier than trying to lay this whole giant thing on there. Trust me on that one. If you're going to do a whole piece, do it this way. Now I did get a little bit of a space there, but I managed to cover it up. Just because this is clear masking film and I'm really trying not to get my head in the way. And you do need those to kind of butt up against each other. And then lay it down. And it doesn't matter if it's wrinkly around the outside. You want to make sure though that it's pretty well sealed in the center. And then I'm going to go ahead and place this in my mini MISTI. And I decide which I want to be top and which to be bottom, because I'll want to be putting a sentiment on there. And I'm going to place little bear and place little fox and place little moon where I want them in the scene. So I'm just making a little scene here inside of this little vignette. I'm just going to stamp it a couple times, make sure it's nice and dark, and I am using my Versamark, Versavine Claire in Nocturne. Not Versamark. I'll get it straight. Oh, I'm having a heck of a time editing this video. Trust me on that one. Because it's longer than, you know, most of my videos. Because I wanted to make sure that, you know, gave you a thorough how-to here. So you just lay the mask down within the lines. And it's not too ultra sticky, but it does stick down nicely. Just want to match up your lines. Then I want the bushes back behind them. So I'm laying the bushes over top of them so that I can color in my scene, and then I'll go from there. So that's going to mask off them and the area behind them. And I'm going to go ahead, and I think I'll use my Catherine Pooler inks here to color this in. I rarely use these guys, and I really like some of the colors. Juniper Mist is one of my favorites. I just forget to get them out. So I've got Juniper Mist, I've got Sugared Lavender, and I'm going to grab this little blending tool here. I'm just going to kind of blend off any excess other color, and I'm going to make this night sky. Okay, super easy. Then I'll go in with the Sugared Lavender and just blend that up into there. Doesn't have to be perfect. The sky is never perfect. Now I need a ground, and I'm trying to decide, do I want to do green or do I want to do brown? And I'm going to go ahead and do brown. So I'm doing icing on the cake. And I'm just kind of going around, going kind of back and forth side to side to make kind of the horizon. And that will dry back a little bit. So now I can pull off my bush masks and color in my bushes, and you'll see that the bushes are still behind them. Now coloring in the bushes wasn't all that easy with the blending tool, but I find a way to remedy that later. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the eucalyptus and a small brush and just start blending this color in. And the thing about these brushes is they don't hold color very well. So you have to keep dipping back in, and that's kind of a hassle, but yeah. you know, you get what you pay for. So I'm just kind of filling in the green of these bushes. And later on, I actually go in with my pencils and kind of enhance the area and straighten out the kind of fuzziness there that happens. But one thing, I don't have to worry about my fox getting dirty, and I don't have to worry about my bear getting dirty. Okay, get those filled in, and I'll color these guys off camera. I'm just going to lay them back on there, and I'll wipe them off later. Or now, I don't know. I don't remember. And I'm going to pull this mask carefully. It has ripped my paper when I'm overzealous. So you want to just carefully do that. And you can see right there on the left-hand side where I've got just a sliver of color. So what I decided to do is paint the background with Distress paint. You could leave it white and just, you know, put some white paint or white out over it. But I decided to paint mine. So that could be just basically almost done, but I do need to color these guys in, so I'm going to do that. I guess I'm not going to color them now. I guess I'm going to do the background now. Okay. So now I'm going to mask this off. You want to get that mask matching up. And I'll go ahead and grab my Distress paint. I'm going to do two colors. I'm going to do kind of a mottled technique here. Let's see here. We'll start out with the Dusty Concord. Get this out of our way here. And I'm just going to use a brush here and brush this paint on for the first layer. So I'm doing more than one layer. And so what I wanted to show you was that this is a wet medium, but it's not going to disturb our masked off image because the masking film is not paper, it's plastic. So it's not going to warp it or anything else like that. I'm just quickly painting over. And while the paint's still wet, I'm going to drip some water on because I want some effects here. If I'm going to go all out. And notice my little line there is completely gone. All right, we let that dry. Now I've got some blueprint sketch. Might want to take that little thing off. I haven't opened this one yet. And my fingers are still blue, by the way. I've scrubbed them a couple of times, but I'm adding a little water, and then I just have this little tool, and I'm just going to kind of dab this around here. And I don't mind that it's making marks because I'm going to do stuff to it. So I'm trying to just kind of darken the area around the vignette and then just kind of push it in with this little makeup blender is basically what it is. Okay, and then I'm going to come back in with my Dusty Concord and a little water, go to the other side and just kind of dab that back. So that the two colors kind of blend together. As long as they're wet, you can blend them. And I don't mind that I get some extra blue, so I can get extra blue out there into the population of the outer areas. And then I've just kind of got a little artsy-fartsy thing going on there. And then I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle it with water and let it dry. All right, that's nice and dry. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull, and yeah, I must have colored that. Oh no, I haven't colored it yet. I'm going to color it off camera. I'm just taking my brush here now and just kind of filling in any little white space. And I can see where I went a little heavy with the paint. It went under my mask. So I'm just fixing it. You can just do that. All right, now I've got them colored in, and I have used these pencils to kind of enhance the coloring, and I colored them with the pencils. And then I went around all the edges with my little micron pen. And I'll go ahead and do this one on camera. This just kind of helps define it a little bit more. Sorry for my crazy gray hair in your way. It doesn't even have to be perfect, because it's just a little drawn image. And I like to turn my picture rather than crane myself around trying to get to the places I need to be. Alright, now all we need to do is trim this down. I'm going to, and then I'm going to stamp a sentiment on here and complete my card. And I'm going to go ahead and decal trim this one too down to 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm decal trimming because my little wonky oval is also kind of deckled, so I want everything to match up. And I'm going to go in with my let's get the sentiment on here. I need some little stars since the sentiment talks about stars. So I'm just using a white gel pen to add some stars in. Nothing crazy, nothing hard. We'll go ahead and stamp down the sentiment. And because I painted that, I'm going to be using archival ink. And I'll do 3 or 4 coats because I don't want to smush down hard on it. I just want to hit it lightly. And it's better to just go back and forth than it is to smush really hard until you get it as dark as you want it. So there we go. Look to the stars. You could even color a shadow behind that vignette and make it look like it's popped up. So I'm just going around the edge here to kind of bring in a little bit of darkness with VersaFine Clair in Twilight. And then I'm going to take my brush and brush it in because it's wet. And remember, we're working on a painted surface. And then I'm going to go ahead and, let me see, do I want to put that on a clear card base? I'm on a clear kick. Nah, we're going to go with a craft. I like the craft better. It's more rustic, camping looking. And yeah, you can see where I got paint on the back. No biggie. No one will ever know. Stole that phrase from Jennifer McGuire. Yes, I did. Okay. There's card number 2 with masking technique number 2. Now let's go up to number 3. And so I've got here this little last piece. So Melanie sent me samples, so she sent me 3. So I've been practicing with them, and so I've been trying to be careful. And I'm cutting that down as close to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 as I can get it. And I'm going to cut out these feathers. Get them positioned how I want them. And what I found with the feathers is that I needed to run it twice, and I needed to run it with my precision plate. The chrome precision plate, they weren't wanting to cut out with the just regular plate, but they cut out beautifully with the precision plate, so I'm happy about that. Going to set those aside because we're going to start out with this. We're going to mask our paper. And I just have some plain, I forget what brand I have here. Just some paper. It's 110-pound cardstock. Or I have watercolor. I might have watercolor. Maybe I have watercolor, you guys. Yep, I do. I can tell now by the side, but I'm using a smooth side. And I'm just laying this down because I'm going to trim it down later. And then just making sure everything's good and pushed down. Okay, and then I have this set of sentiments that I got from Sizzix. They had a big sale, so I totally took advantage. And what I'm going to be doing is just stamping these down kind of random. I do want them all going in the same direction, and I'm trying to get it so I can see some of the words, the whole word. So I'll have to pick them up and move them multiple times to be able to cover the whole thing. And I'm okay with that. So we'll start with these. And I'm just going to be using my VersaFine Clair again. And it's going to look like a hot mess, but trust me, it's going to come out pretty cool. So now we're using a mask to cover things, so almost like a stencil. But much thinner than it. You couldn't really do this with a stencil, because if you had a stencil this thin, it wouldn't be a very good stencil. All right, now let me find more places to put words. Yeah, that'll work. Let's see, can I fit another one? Just trying to put them where, I'm trying to get them to all fit, but I can't. I probably should have used a bigger stamping tool, but that's okay. And I don't even realize that I left a stamp on there. There we go. Let's get that off of there. Okay, a couple more. I'm just going to move my paper over a little so I can fit this stamp. Let's see what else will fit in here. You could hand stamp it too if you wanted to. Just making sure that's going to close. Okay, find a different one. That'll work. Nope, changed my mind. There we go. I'll put this last one down. I mean, in the long run, you're only going to be able to read parts of words, and that's the whole plan. So I'll go ahead and pull off my mask, and then you can see that I've got only the feathers filled in and a lot of empty space around it. And go ahead, and I got a little black there, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to try and lay these feathers down, and I find out that I have a hard time figuring out which one goes where. So I'll show you a trick here in a minute. Once I finally give up and say, this is not working, I'm going to take this template, open it up, actually just take this piece right here and fit it to where they basically are, and then I'll be able to tell which one goes where. There we go. And it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but close is good. Mainly, I just couldn't remember which feather went where. Got little extra pieces on there I don't want. Okay, I'm just going to lay that in there. Sorry about my head in the way. Lay that down. And this one, I know goes here because it's the only one left, right? I can see the bottom part of the feather. All right, there we go. Got them nice and pushed down. I don't want anything leaking down under them. So what I think I'll do is I think I'm going to go ahead and grab my new media mat and do a little bit of ink smushing on here. Nothing crazy. See, at first I think I'm going to go ahead and do it on this, but I remembered the media mat makes some really nice beads. So let's go ahead and take advantage of that. Now I've already stained it, so that's something you better get used to. And this is gathered twigs, and I'm just pushing that down in. And I think I want to go with, what am I going to do here? I'm going to wipe that up. Oh, I know I'm going to go with speckled egg, because I love the two together, the gathered twigs and speckled egg. I'm just kind of drying off. I don't want to take heat to that because I don't know how this stuff takes heat. I did not do that experiment, so, and I'm not going to right now. I'm going to grab this speckled egg. Okay, and then wipe down. And then I'm going to go ahead and throw some water on here. Caution to the wind because I've got a mask, and then I'm going to kind of wipe up. I don't want anything leaking into my feathers. All right, and then go in some more with the speckled egg, and I'm just going to take my brush and tap, tap, tap onto here. And everywhere. Here and everywhere. All right, I'm happy with that. I have to let it dry. I'm letting it dry natural. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull up my mask, but before I do that, I want to darken around the edges of the feathers. So the way I'm going to do that is with just a little brush and my vintage photo ink. I've got this little ink cube here. I'm just going to go along the edges of the mask here. And that's going to help make the feathers stand out more. And I'm just kind of blending it outward. I need my other media mat back because my ink's slipping around on me. But that's okay. I'll work with it. So now you've seen the masking film working with wet media, a different wet media, water that is, and ink, to create sort of a stencil effect, and then we're just kind of doing a little bit of vignette around the feathers. Hopefully you can hear me okay. My microphone got weird on me. I love these feathers too, by the way. Those are, if you didn't know, those are Tim Holtz and Sizzix. And then I'm just kind of blending that out a bit. Now I'm going to be trimming this down. All right, I think I'm ready to reveal now. And there we go. So you know, even though the whole word happy isn't there, you know it says happy. I kind of like the print off to the side there that's sitting there, but it's too big. It won't fit on an A2 card base, so I'm gonna sadly trim it up. But guess what? I'm saving that piece for junk journals or something. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim it down to, 4 by 5 1/4. You see me grabbing those and putting them aside. Those are treasures. Now, I don't know what the heck I'm doing here, but I apologize. I'm doing something. Either that or I just walked off and left the video running. Okay, I'm back. Getting my glasses back on. I must have gone to answer the door or something and forgot I had the video running. So back to my trimming. So 4 by 5 1/4. So that's going to fit my A2 card base. And I'm going to go ahead and edge this as well, just to kind of pull in the color. Make everything all get along, well, all happy and things. The vintage photo speckled egg and gathered twigs combo is probably my favorite. Okay. There we go. So typically I would sew this at this point to another backer, but I'm not going to because I can't show you my sewing machine. So I'm coming in with some black paint now, and I'm going to do some black spattering on there. And, you know, I'm not going to get in on the argument whether it's spattering or splattering. It's both. So I'm going to spatter on my card with black paint and water and a little fan brush. And I'm not going to go crazy here, but I definitely want that rustic look, you know, that dirty, moldy, rustic look. That just kicks it up a notch, and we'll let that dry. And clean up my mat here. We're almost done with 3 cards with 3 different masked and masking techniques. And I'm just going to make you watch me clean this because I don't know. And I'm going to go ahead and take my heat tool to it to help it, but not too much. I don't want it to warp, but I want that black paint to dry so I can mount this on a card. Oh, I didn't put those little pieces away. Look at those. Look at that beautiful little piece with those little words on it. So I'm going to pick one of these. I'm just going to go with Live in the Moment and decide where I want to put that, and I'm going to put it just down below. I don't think I want it in the middle. I think I want it to have its own life right there. And then I'll glue this to a craft card base. So we used all craft card bases, and we used our Sizzix Masking Film to create different looks. So I'll have everything listed in the description box below where you can get the masking film and everything else that I used in this video. Again, this is a video specifically for ScrappyShak. I hope that you enjoy it. I hope you learned something. I'm gonna try and figure out how I can make this timestamps on this. I've never done that before. I might have to consult a friend. I may have to phone a friend. How do you do that? So that you can jump to, you know, whatever specific part you want. Because I did show the cards in order in the pictures of what we did so that you can see the techniques of each one. And here we go. Here's our 3. There's Professor with his pink striped wall background. Here's Bear and Fox out in the wood looking at the stars. I don't know why I'm doing that, but yeah. And then here are our feathers. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're not already, give me an inky thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed, please consider subscribing. And don't forget to visit ScrappyShak.com. Thank you so much. Have an awesome day.